Today we look at the first UK double O gauge out of the box, built in both ends, auto uncouplers from Bachmann on the class 30s and these 31s, and now the 08 Shunters with more on the way. We uncover why this definitely steps up to the mark and raises the bar across the board as long as we step up and raise the bar to match it. Ask me, am I happy with the results so far? Well, no, I'm absolutely ecstatic. It's why I've got the class 09 and the up and coming 69 on back order already. Also eyeing up the 66. Now come on, let's get this thing on the track. I'm going to show you how to get blissful auto uncoupling out of the box.
Casey Jones, steaming and a-rolling. Casey Jones, you never have to guess. When you hear a tooting of the whistle, it's a Casey at the throttle of the Cannonball Express.
Give us a thumbs up and subscribe. It won't hurt the bank balance. Now, there's no dodgy kinematics, no bits falling off, and why this auto uncoupler has baffled some will simply come down to your own discernment in the end, I guess. Bachmann at this time, they're doing some great things. This certainly ain't no rushed through, childish prank or flawed innovation. Today being tested here on what for me is the definitive 3031 in 2025. Fully equipped, fully detailed, current, up to the mark models. And it's certainly not got the droopy drawers that some were saying earlier on. These couplings are perfectly square and they look fantastic. Anything that could be better or compromise is made? Yes, of course. And all shall be revealed. Why it's unlocking even more of the hidden anomalies within the many tension lock coupling designs that I looked at some time ago, all sold as if they'll all marry happily together, but in reality we know cause endless issues for those running different manufacturers and eras together, until now that is, and thus helping me to finally and simply decide which couplings I'm going to be using from here on in. Why it's yielding better than ever running results on both my layouts for all my trains, and when coupled with the latest universally wired free for you to choose Plux 22 decoders, should you so wish to not go deluxe, but why wouldn't you? Because add all these other specs on top, it is quite simply gilt-edging an already future-proof sound investment, leaving many looking outdated before they've even been released. No wonder some had furrowed brows. Let's get these auto uncouplers working as they should do and as they were intended to. Transfer up to Lofthouse. Now I'm going to go into this in a little bit more detail as the video progresses, but I wanted to get you up there and looking at this, because if you can get your track nice and flat and laid well, if you can avoid radius 1, if you can get the right coupling heights between your Loco and rolling stock, if you can get the right non-ferrous, that means non-magnetic coupling hooks on all your rolling stock that comes into contact with these auto uncouplers, if you can get the right length of hook as well, make sure they match. Make sure the decoupling matches, so you're not going from an old big metal D down to a small D on this Bachmann auto uncoupler. You want your couplings, you want to be using all Bachmann couplings. And as I'm going to show you, Bachmann do an array of different ones, flat, short, and stepped as well in various sizes. So you can get a good match, because all manufacturers do different tolerances, different couplings, and they're made from different materials. So avoid plastic coupling hooks or anything like that, and avoid, of course, as I've just said, the metal couplings. You want the brass ones that Bachmann do, and they've been doing them for a long while, and they will send free ones out with these models.
Squeeze up.
As they say, proof is in the pudding, and have I had a single glitch and I've got all the Modeloco checks in place and sorted? Well, have a look at this. Okay, so we can see Lofthouse Station here. Of course, Lofthouse is under development at this time, but we've got some Wascosser wagons on this line here. We've got the Class 31 here, and we've got the Drax wagons here. And so what I'm going to do is bring it down here, uncouple come across, flick the points, go on to this, pick up the Wascosser wagons, which are the wrong way around on this line, reverse up, flick the points, come back down onto this line, uncouple, couple up, just to test this uncoupler, bring it back, and then there's no siding here, but I've put one on just for now. So we're going to flick the points here, and then we're going to bring the Drax wagons, the two Drax wagons along here, leave them, flick the points over, pick up the Wascosser, down from Lofthouse Station, then we're going to go around the layout. Off the bat, my layout track is supported and mounted on flat level baseboards with correctly pitched inclines. And if you've used Hornby rolling stock in the past, it don't match Bachmann, does it? And so you'll need Bachmann couplings for the auto couplers to work. Remember, this is new technology to the UK, and we've got to have everything matched and aligned. Most importantly, they need to have non-ferrous, non-magnetic hooks, i.e. the hooks being brass, not steel. PS, plastic ones are too light, so avoid them at all costs anyway. Revolution trains incorporate, for instance, what look like Bachmann couplings, but they're magnetic, so no good when used with the Bachmann auto uncoupler models, okay? Bachmann will send out a free pack of free hooks on seeing a receipt of any Deluxe models purchased, not having any spare hooks included in the box that new models will, it is said, come with. If you do go tighter than radius 2, the Bachmann couplings in my trials may cause buffer clash when coupling up with some non-Bachmann models fitted with Bachmann couplings, like for instance the Hornby Drax wagons, when fitted with Bachmann long straight couplings. And more on these in a little bit, as they have a few different types. But if we don't want overly unrealistic gaps, then that's why I'd say Bachmann have gone with these auto uncoupler dimensions on this 31 and others alike. It's well thought through, but we have to do our bit too, as things have been lacking in the past. Now, some may say that having an uncoupler built into a baseboard means that we can uncouple any wagons at any part of any rake or coaches or whatever, not just at the Loco end. And well, if so, then you could always fit one of the many designs, etc. So it's a non-issue in a way, and you've still got to have the room, and it's all rake dependent and how long a rakes you've got. And there's many issues that can get in the way and many anomalies and many imperfections that can crop up. All said and done, this enables uncoupling anywhere within reason on your layout, saving literally hours of planning time, wiring controllers, and so saves money to spend on other things, doesn't it? Nobody really uncouples on sharp bends anyway, if they want optimum uncoupling success, and it's always been a little bit hit and miss. I'd say if you get this set up right, it's not going to be. You're going to get a good 95% chance of success. Although things can always get in the way. We know couplings can become crossed and stuff like that. Plus now, we no longer have to bend down to get a line side view, stooping over our layouts to get our coupling of choice, KD, whatever, perfectly located and lined up just right over the baseboard uncouplers, or fit bespoke uncouplers with bits of cotton or whatever to our Locos, because it's all out of the box now and does the whole shunt with or without additional uncoupling narration if required on this Zimmo, simply and effectively. I do love Zimmo, and it's a Plux 22. I think it sounds and looks absolutely superb and yields a lifelike result, once all points are taken on board, of course. I'd say it's the best UK auto uncoupler I've seen so far, and far beyond the 60% success rate of uncoupling that one user stated whilst using all the wrong setup scenarios, using the perfect get out clause that they really didn't know what they were doing. Very clever. As I say, we all need to use more discernment with what we take in, and even if done in all innocence or as humour, it could put some off this great innovation. I think that's a shame. But two, I can perfectly understand why other manufacturers or their linked influencers might be feeling a little less enthusiastic about these Bachmann models. I'm looking at all the above and finding that there's far more to all this coupling than first meets the eye. Finally now, with one model to set the benchmark by, I can let go of those that don't meet these 2025 standards at the front of my rake and begin matching all that do and can to this. I'd known about other couplings, but had no idea that manufacturers all use different dimensions and tolerances. Hornbys are always that bit bigger with steel hooks, and so for me, now out of the picture completely. Decision made, simpler thanks to this. So we're going to come down long haul, over Lover's Leap, down Old Chamber, off the incline onto Oxbow, it's a second radius, so that can cause trouble, through Lower Lofthouse Station, then the curved radius points, under Sod's Castle Bridge, and then we're going to climb back up Fulcrum Fell. Ignore the arrowhead here, which is the wrong way round. I need to alter that, and so is that one. Back up and into Lofthouse Station. And there we go. We've given it then a really good run. 21.5 feet by 18 feet, and we'll see how it performs. And I think that should show up any anomalies. And having bought, tried and looked at the Bachmann Auto Uncoupler now, I'd definitely say it's a big, massive leap forward for UK model railways, like the Hornby tap water-based cool running steam generators. Check out my reviews on them. They're getting a slight upgrade as well to give them even better results, so check spec sheets. But like those, I adore these too. And as I now branch out into diesels, this Bachmann model has lifted my experience even higher. It has had the odd bout of flawed information, clickbait thrown at it, which I think is totally unjust and unfair, and it puts people off that know less than myself and maybe you watching. Yes, this model does have the odd minor flaw, but not in this department as far as I'm concerned. At an additional approximately, at time of editing this video, of about £19.12 per uncoupler, I'd say it is money well spent. For what you pay for an uncoupler, you can pay nearly that for a hand-painted 3D figure these days. And so in real terms, for what this brings and does, when you consider all the innovation built into these on the Plux 22 Deluxe fitted models, and what it does invite us all to do is to become better, more discerning modelers. And that includes manufacturers to establish universal standards, tolerances, heights and materials used for better running as our trains get longer and more varied, especially on the coupling front.
This train will not be stopping at the next station. Please listen for further announcements.
This auto uncoupler is, in my view, setting the new datum standard to set all others by. You don't knock this down by trying to make it suit an array of older mismatched locos, couplings and rolling stock. You rise with it, and that is exactly what I've done and I'm doing here. By following some simple steps I've set out to help you, to help me, to help others, you too can enjoy the benefits and an enhanced model railway experience by bringing auto uncoupling and even more hands-free realism to your layout right now, today in the UK, right out of the box and in future, because let's face it, the coupling issues here have needed addressing for decades. This, for me, is a game changer, and it is the definitive Class 3031 in 2025. And the same goes for this new Hand of God uncoupler. Of course, I'll update you if anything comes to light, but ask me, am I happy with the results so far? Well, yes, I'm absolutely ecstatic. Now, just looking at magnetic couplings for a minute, I was thinking of using these across the board, even on Loco to rolling stock, but the auto uncoupler sorts that decision out too for me. As using magnetics, once they're coupled up, you still need the hand of God to pull them apart, or if someone ever does come up with an electromagnetic auto uncoupler, then happy days. I think it's a long way off, but I have said it to Hornby, so who knows. But I'll stick with these magnetic couplings from Hornby when and where I can. And as they evolve too, I've got the Hornby ones successfully running, even though they shouldn't really with the JNA T-wagons from Revolution Trains, for instance. The same mod didn't work as well on the Drax wagons, unfortunately. They do have a long wheel to coupling end ratio. This could be a pull weight build-up, having a rake of 13 on inclines, bends, etc., so causing a bogie pull over or odd back wheel off issue. I'm not sure. And all these Hornby tension lock coupled Drax wagons will get the Bachmann hook and link couplings eventually, which just pull that buffer to buffer ratio in a little bit. But again, my layout has only got minimum radius 2 bends, so works fine in that regard. Okay, these are mainly the tension lock couplings that I have in Lofthouse and on my layouts. So in double O gauge, that is. So the NEM tension lock and magnetic coupling variations I have most of are down here, and these are the NEM sockets. Now, just a little bit to say about these. This is the Bachmann one. They have an NEM socket that is standardized, but the dovetail at the back is different. You can't put a Bachmann in a Hornby or a Hornby in a Bachmann. They don't really work. They may do a push, but I think one's tighter than the other. So if you try and put a Bachmann one in a Hornby, it'll be a bit tight, and maybe it's a bit loose if you try and put a Hornby one in a Bachmann. So I would say go for the right make for the right Loco. They do break every now and again. This one is broken. One of the tangs broke off, so I just took it out. And the dovetail is the bit that's different. And the chamfer on the edge here, you press that in first. The non-chamfered side is on the upper side that you look at when you're looking down on the model once you've pushed it in. Right, next, let's go on to the magnetic couplings. Now, I use these on my rolling stock. I use this make because I think they're the best, and they are injection molded rather than 3D printed, so these tangs are very strong. The ones I use most of are the 20mm R7399 vacuum pipe type, but I only use these now because of the auto uncoupler between rolling stock, but it's the 20mm that I use most of. The 17mm does come in handy for some types of Hornby rolling stock, and the Buckeye one as well, of course. The LNER Coronation coaches have a special, even shorter styled Buckeye coupling, so these are just a little bit longer, but they're specialised and only supplied with those coaches. Now we go on to these. Now these are the Hornby standard elongated, and like these and the big D ones, which were the old-fashioned type, avoid these when you're using the Bachmann auto uncoupler. So I'm exchanging all these out of my Hornby models for these Bachmann ones in the various guises. Now I've also got DePaul, Hellion, Revolution trains, all this sort of stuff, so Acura scale, and all these need changing over to suit if they don't match. And we're looking for this D size. This D size is different on a Hornby one. It's slightly longer, as I explained, than the Bachmann ones. So we're changing these out, but the tangs are all the same because the NEM pockets are standardized. So we're really getting rid of the Hornby ones because of the D side and metal hook, which sticks to the auto uncoupler, and you can't uncouple then. The ones I'm using most of are the Bachmann 36030, which are long straight, and these are used most often when converting over. We go on to the other, if you can see this dimension between the tangs and the start of the bottom of the D. The D is the same, but there's just this elongated point here. So this is the 36061 short straight. Hardly use them, but they're there if I need them on certain models that come into the collection. Bachmann 36064, long cranked, as I call them, stepped, and I use these a little as well, especially with DePaul and Hellion and things like that. And then we go on to the Bachmann 36027, short cranked or stepped, and these are hardly used again. So these are the most popular, and if you've got an auto uncoupler model, then get yourself some of these, and they do come with the Bachmann NEM sockets already in a pack. So they work out very cheap. It's nearly as much to have them posted as it is to buy them, but there we go. If you can pick them up from your local model shop when you pop in, get yourself some 36030 and maybe some long stepped as well, or cranked. Get yourself a packet of them. If you feel you've got some Locos you wanting to match up, now you've changed all your rolling stock over from Hornby to match the auto uncoupler. So that's it in a nutshell. I wanted to get them all together so you could see them all, view them all, and realise that this is the real reason people are having uncoupling problems on videos that are less than, respectful to, I think, what is, after all, a great innovation. Maybe DC users are less enthusiastic, obviously, because they can't use it. Maybe, some gamers that have a model train set, something like that, are getting a little bit miffed as well. But they are moving the ball forward for us DCC users, and especially the sound users. After all, these are superb. Okay, so we've got the 31 on the track. It's on a flat table. The box helps us see that straight line. I'm going to bring in a coach. Is this right or is this wrong? Now, you should be able to see straight away one of the hooks is too long, and the D on the left is a bit longer stuck out than the one on the Class 31. That's because this is a Hornby coach, and if I put this magnet in you'll see straight away it's attracting. This one isn't. So that is wrong. It's not going to couple up right. This is going to cause all sorts of coupling issues. This will not auto uncouple, even though when we look at the two Ds, which are below the hooks, they seem about level. But it's not going to uncouple, so we're going to count that one right out of the mix. Make sure, of course, that your Locos are on the track. That's always a good point. We can see if we bring this one in, I've now put a Bachmann long straight coupling onto this, and we can see if we bring it in, it's looking a little bit low, okay? But when we couple up and we get tension, it just pulls that up a little bit. Can you see? To the right height. That will uncouple. It does uncouple. It will work. And it's got a non-ferrous hook. Next one, I'm going to show you one of the Wascosa wagons. Now, interestingly enough, Revolution Trains put in couplings that resemble Bachmann couplings, but they've got a steel hook, so they won't uncouple. So we check that to make sure it's one that I've changed and it's not an original Revolutions. And you can see this one is really matched up, both in height, length, and everything else. And if we couple, we can see that is superb. It's got a nice buffer to buffer gap for second radius. If you're going around a third radius, it might be a little bit too much, and then use a Bachmann short straight coupling. For second radius, that's perfect. That's going to uncouple, that's going to work, no issues, and it has had no issues either. That's a bit of a look at couplings. Edge your bets and make them absolutely as near as is physically possible. If there's a slight misdemeanor, like possibly with this one here, we don't alter the Loco to suit the coach. We alter the coach to suit the Loco, and if the coach won't alter, if it's got one of those big D couplings in that's fixed with no NEM pocket, then it's not going to be used when you're coupling up with the auto uncoupler. Use it somewhere else in your reg if you must, but you want modern rolling stock, and we can see that this one is a bit hit and miss. The auto uncoupler's working, the hook on that, but the one on the Bachmann itself is pulling a little bit. Grabbing it from the diesel end is probably a bit better. It would work, but I would probably try and just get another hook in there, or just try and bend that down, because it's an older design. It's kinematic again. These cause trouble. The more modern coaches by Bachmann are a lot better designed. If you want to know any more about tension locks, then look at my other video where I describe the big Ds a bit more, I do believe. But next step after matching all your rolling stock up is, of course, to try and match all our Locos up so they'll also go with the rolling stock. This is a double biturn, a Hornby coupling. So it's the right height, albeit for the size of the coupling. So what I'm going to do now is take this coupling out, which won't match because the coupling's too long. And also you will see it's a Hornby because it's magnetic. So here's now the Hornby biturn with a Bachmann coupling. This will now match up with rolling stock with Bachmann couplings. In this tender, you could put a steel hook because it's never going to come in contact with an auto uncoupler unit. It's just so the heights match when you've got your rolling stock. The only thing else to try now is to put a Hornby coupling in the tender with a Bachmann hook, and let's see what that looks like. A little bit too short if you've only got Hornby small D couplings. And can you see? You're not going to link up. Well, it can. But now look what happens. There's no slack whatsoever. So I'd advise not to just replace the hooks if you've only Hornby small D couplings. I think the hooks that Bachmann are supplying are really for any Bachmann type couplings that have steel hooks. The other thing as well, these don't really go together very well. They soon come out. So that's a Bachmann hook in a Hornby coupling, and they don't really move that freely. So the other final thing I wanted to just reiterate was the fact that once you have got the couples matched, and this in the Wascossa here is what we call a straight long. I've tried a straight short, and can you see the gap there I've got between the buffers? If I was pushing that uphill, I wouldn't want to go any more than that really, any closer, buffer to buffer. Because if you're pushing that uphill round a sort of radius 2 bend, you might get into issues. Plus when they're going uphill and it's pulling or hauling, then you have got that gap, which is about right for a second radius. And that's why if you're using the auto uncoupler, I wouldn't go any stronger than a second radius on your layout. If you want these auto uncouplers to work with all your rolling stock, that is, you know, be totally interchangeable, this is one thing you're going to have to think about. That's why I love the auto uncoupler, but I could imagine if you had a first radius layout, you might be struggling a little bit with it on certain bits of rolling stock because of what we've had to do and had to change with all the others. It's a great system, it really is, it's fabulous, but you've got to be aware of these little things that may not have seemed so obvious at first. If you do all this, you'll probably realise that this needed doing and has needed doing for a long time anyway, and you're probably glad you do because you'll get better running and less derailments. These auto uncouplers are taking these newly tooled models far beyond the beautifully secure scaled steel handrails, where others may use nylon. On this Class 3031 at least, it's steel and it looks awesome. It's got great paintwork, that tinted glazing, where prototypical, new tooling, as I said, securing superb detailing, metal sprung buffers that feel real, built to take a push or two and won't just drop off on a bush of mesh. And yes, I've tried it and they work so well like the real thing. They look awesome, great paint finish, the buffers are flush, and yes, and the tones of the paint as well are fantastic. It doesn't feel too delicate to touch like some new manufacturers where I'm collecting bags of bits to take around with the Locos for gluing back on later. And then there's that Zimmo equipped Plux 22. Yes, not 21. It's got the latest twin speaker out of the box. And as I know well, from many trials now against the latest ESU and Hornby HM7000 TXS sounds, you will not be disappointed by the sound or the clang from this one. It really is Bachmann to my ears. Or should I say Bach? This model comes with no fitted Stay Alive or power bank, but in my trials, well, why would it, you could argue? It simply doesn't need one. But none of my older Bachmann Coco or Bobos suffer cutouts, apart from my older DMUs, because yes, they can be a bit hit and miss at times. And so on these models, they've got great pickup and bogey design, where the coupling follows the bogey. It's a part of it. It's not separate or sticky like a kinematic coupling, as they call it on the Hornby Class 60 or a Cura Scale Class 66, that's caused some issues on tighter bends. Yes, the 0809s may well need a power bank in them due to the wheel configuration, and so yes, these do have fitted power banks on sound models. Not sure about DCC ready. I'm not into DC. Plus prototypical perfectly scaled lighting features to dazzle the most demanding modeler. One other little thing as well, no hall sensor, so you won't get automatic flange squeal when you go around your bends with this model. It's something that I'd like to have seen, but there again, I can live without it. This is superb. whether you're a Bachmann or a Bachmann. And these have the DCC sound reacting fan 2, once shouted down as a gimmick. And so Hornby removed theirs instead of developing them further on certain models, whilst others quietly began adding them in. Luckily, Bachmann don't easily give in to naysayers in this regard as easily, and the Class 69 will have 2. This will look simply awesome. Along with the usual directional model-specific lighting and cab lighting, that is a bit dim on this model, I'll say that. But guess it's prototypical, I don't know. No day or night option either, which would have been nice for those of us that like those cabs a little bit brighter. We want to see inside them, but there's no wiring on show as far as I can see. The new engine room lighting is much better. On the other hand, there's a 5-pole motor, so no callers here on this model, but this runs as smooth as silk, even at the slowest speeds, as far as I can see on my Pico Streamline unfrogged points. Indeed, cordless motors we're beginning to see much more of now, but they'll never have the real pull and strength of a 5-pole, in my opinion. It's just not there, and this model has a good weight to it too. The only other flaw that I've found, and my biggest gripe, and one that all my Bachmanns seem to suffer with, is downhill cogging or slight runaway speed-ups on descent, especially on my steepest 2.35-degree incline. Also missing on this model, and also not fitted on the 08-09 Shunters, are a couple of fitted painted cab crew, which, to be honest, all diesels should come with, at the fan end at least, or what we usually call the front. And especially in today's modelling market, I'd say it's a big cost saver and selling pull for Bachmann as well, or all manufacturers. Apart from being a huge time saver, no need to figure out how to pull the cabs out or take the bodywork off. It's a great plus all round for consumers, and as you probably have seen, I've added these. It just finishes off the great look, and it's becoming the norm in 2025, let's face it, as we all film in 4K. And that's about it for another one. Give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Help independent modelling and people who are independent, because we're not tied to retailers. We don't get the goods before they come into the shops to review, to get the algorithm ratings up. There's a lot of changes going on, and I think things are getting better. There really never has been a better time to get into model railways. Until the next one, happy and the wheels are striking thunder on the railroad track. There'll be Casey Jr. and the Red Rock too, Wally Sanders and the rest of the crew, in a thrilling adventure that's a lot of fun, when Casey takes the throttle for another run. Casey Jones, steaming and a-rolling. Casey Jones, you never have to guess. When you hear a tooting of the whistle, it's a Casey at the throttle of the Cannonball Express. Casey Jones, steaming and a-rolling. Casey Jones, you never have to guess. When you hear a tooting of the whistle, it's a Casey at the throttle of the Cannonball Express.